All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Mechakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the elders, and bishops at Great Millstone. I'm your brother, Rabbi Knapp, coming out with a lesson. Lord's will, this is edifying to the Lord's elect. I found this on NewYorkTimes.com, and it says Iran's attacks force U.S. troops to work remotely. So let's see what this is talking about.
Iran's attacks force U.S. troops to work remotely. This article is by Helena Cooper and Eric Schmidt and read by an automated voice. Iran has bombed U.S. bases across the Middle East in retaliation for the U.S.-Israeli war, forcing many American troops to relocate to hotels and office spaces throughout the...
Damn, Iran's making you work remotely, Esau, huh? That's what you like anyways. Let me just follow. I can't get this sign off down here. Let me read that. Iran has bombed U.S. bases across the Middle East in retaliation for the U.S.-Israeli war, forcing many American troops to relocate to hotels and office spaces throughout the region, according to military personnel and American officials, man. See, Jeremiah 51. Just grab it. You're a military personnel. You're supposed to be on the battlefield. What you doing you just want to work in the office space. Jeremiah 51 and 30, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holds. Their might have failed. They become as women. They have burned her dwelling places. Her bars are broken. Let's read this that's what you are, man. Let's look at this word forborne. As a matter of fact, let's copy this. Let's bring it into Chat GPT. And let them break it down. All right. Jeremiah 51. And it says, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. Mighty men, Babylon's warriors, elite soldiers, forborne, seized, held back. They stopped. Yeah, you stopped fighting, then you went to the hotel. I wonder why. This is showing that Babylon's strongest fighters lose the will to fight. The Lord takes their courage away. I never heard of people retreating into hotels. That just blows my mind. Nahum 3 verse 13, thy people are women in the midst of thee, lost of strength and judgment. Let's grab that, Nahum 3 verse 13. That's Nineveh. Same thing with Babylon, showing you that they're both represent Babylon, America. Nahum 3 verse 13, behold, thy people in the midst of thee are women, meaning they're scared to fight. The gates of thy land shall be set wide open unto thine enemies. The fire shall devour thy bars. Let's see what this means. I never heard anything like that. Portraying once mighty warriors as fearful and helpless like women, and city gates as broken or undefended. It declares that arrogant power, sorcery, and cruelty cannot withstand God, serving as a warning against trusting in human strength. And that's exactly what Esau trusted in. That's embarrassing. Military collapse. The verse predicts that Assyrian soldiers, which are American soldiers formerly feared, it used to be feared, right? Will lose their courage and strength entirely when facing the Babylonian army, right? Because, Assyria pretty much got taken down by Babylon. Okay, as a matter of fact, let's just verify that. Because I forgot exactly how. How was the Assyrian Empire taken down by Babylon? The Assyrian Empire was taken down by a Babylonian-led revolt spearheaded by King Nebuchadnezzar, who allied with the Medes to exploit Assyrian instability. The alliance, capitalizing on civil strife and overextension, conquered major cities like Ashur in 614 BC and systematically sacked the capital, Nineveh, in 612 BC, effectively ending Assyrian dominance. So there you go. So the Babylonians were used to take it's funny how they matched up with the Medes, because the Medes end up taking the Babylonians down later on. Total vulnerability. The gates wide open signify that the city's defenses will fail completely, making it easy for enemies to enter and destroy. Yeah, where's your defense at? You had all these military bases. Where's the defense at for these drones at? Where's all this capability that you got? Shouldn't they be hiding in hotels right now? You said you destroyed their navy. You said you destroyed all of this. There's not no one to talk to. Okay, but now you want to work, you want to hide in a hotel. That's just crazy. It says, divine retribution. The destruction is a direct result of God's judgment, described in earlier verses in Nahum 3:1-4, as punishment for Nineveh's cruelty and bloodthirstiness. So you paying for your sins. Symbolic language. The phrase "like woman" is used in ancient context, not for gender comparison, but as a metaphor for helplessness, fear, and lack of strength. That's right. Women ain't stronger than men. So if you become like women, you fighting men. Okay. Men who are willing to put their lives on their life on the line for the country that they live in. Synonyms and related themes: total collapse, inevitable ruin, catastrophic failure, utter defeat. That's what it sounds like. Your morale got to be low when you're sitting in a hotel with your army fatigue on and all your big backpacks and all of that. All this training you got, you sitting up in a Hyatt somewhere. Defenselessness, vulnerability, weakness, helplessness, divine judgment, divine wrath, justice, retribution, arrogance / fall, pride before destruction, humbling of the mighty. Yeah, that's pride, man. Imagery. The text paints a picture of fire burning the bars of the gates and soldiers fleeing rather than defending the city. Yeah, you can't even be your bases. You ain't there anymore, and you ain't even dead. You just running. You ain't supposed to abandon your post. It's just, I never heard of anything like this. I'm appalled that this is actually going on. The people are women, not in their notoriously effeminate and luxurious habits, because they find avenues laid open to the enemy and the remaining defenses consuming in the flames. So you get the point, man. Isaiah 13:7, every man's heart shall melt. That's right. Let's grab that too. Isaiah 13:7, therefore shall all hands be faint and every man's heart shall melt. That's right. Let's read that in the NLT. Isaiah 13:7, every arm is paralyzed with fear, every heart melts. So let's look at this word. I think melt just actually means to melt. But your heart is your mind. Okay. It says, highlighting the intense fear and paralysis of humanity when facing the day of the Lord. This verse describes a profound psychological collapse where strength evaporates and fear overwhelms confidence in response to God's judgment. You telling the people that, you winning the war, you telling them you better surrender. Why would I surrender if I got you hiding in hotels? Escaping for your life. I'm not surrendering to somebody I got running away. That don't even make any sense. You running away from the battle. Surrender. Surrender. Put down your guns. Like, that shit just doesn't even make any sense. Significant context. The verse is part of a prophecy concerning the destruction of Babylon, symbolizing arrogant empires in the day of the Lord. So this is with a heathen nation that you running like that. Imagine the Lord's significance. It serves as a stark depiction of helplessness. The image of hands going limp or faint indicates that defenders of Babylon will be powerless to fight, just like now. Hearts melt. This phrase signifies intense terror and emotional despair, describing a state of complete discouragement and shock, often compared to the pain of a woman in labor in the following verse. Comparison. Similar language is used elsewhere in the Bible. Example, Ezekiel 7 verse 17 and Joshua 2:11 to illustrate the reaction to impending destruction. And I gotta grab that and see what they talking about. I don't think there's any precepts that describe warriors running into office spaces. Joshua 2:11. And as soon as we had heard these things, our hearts did melt. Neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you. For the Lord your God, he is God in heaven above and in earth beneath. That's talking about Rahab. Now, therefore, I pray you swear unto me by the Lord, since I have showed you kindness, that ye will also show kindness unto my father's house, and give me a true token, and that ye will save alive my father and my mother and my brethren and my sisters and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. Right? You'll be pleading for your life. And that was with the nation of Israel, because they were scared of the Lord for what he did in ancient Egypt. Let me grab this in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 7. And where are you, Ezekiel? Ezekiel 7, verse 17. All hands shall be feeble, and all knees shall be weak as water. Let's read that in the NLT. Their hands will hang limp. Their knees will be weak as water. Let's look this up. This is talking about Jacob's trouble. This phrase represents total panic and despair, with many versions noting the knees will turn to water or tremble uncontrollably. Now, that's Ezekiel 7's going into. That's how crazy it's going to be in these last days. I'm sure it's scary to be in war, but those are mighty men dealing like that. You people are not trained for psychological things like that, so you're going to be just as scared, if not probably even more scared. Especially when you don't know what the hell's going on. Paralyzing fear. The phrase knees weak as water is a Hebrew idiom for extreme terror and anxiety that causes physical collapse. And you people got anxiety when shit's going good. Total helplessness. Hands will be feeble indicates that people will be unable to fight or defend themselves. You're going to be and a lot of you women are going to be like that. You're going to be so scared to even defend yourself. Context of judgment. This verse is part of a prophecy regarding the destruction of Israel, where their wealth, idols, and strength will fail to save them from the consequences of their actions. Right. This is judgment for the nation of Israel. That's hence why I call it Jacob's trouble. Physical reaction. Some interpretations suggest the phrase knees wet with urine refers to losing control of one's body out of sheer panic. That's in the NET and the LEB. Never heard of that. Ezekiel 7, verse 17 in the NET. All their hands will hang limp, their knees will be wet with urine. Yeah, you're going to be pissing yourself. I never heard of NET Bible. That's a good, I like that. You're going to be pissing yourself in these last days, babe, for fear. For fear of the judgment of the Lord. The Lord is what's bringing the destruction to Esau. You're only feeling the fear that really belongs to Esau. It ain't even get to him yet. So if y'all are feeling like that, imagine how he feel when it gets brought. Listen, they're in hotels right now. The plan didn't work. He's probably thinking, all right, I'm going to send even more troops, because that's what he just said. But anyways, let me hear a little bit more. I've got a couple things I want to go through.
Region, according to military personnel and American officials. So now much of the land-based military is, in essence, fighting the war while working remotely, with the exception of fighter pilots and crews operating and maintaining warplanes and conducting strikes. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps has urged people to report these new locations as it hunts for the dispersed troops. U.S. military officials...
As it hunts for the dispersed troops. Come on, man. This reminds me of the book of Ezekiel. Chapter, I think it's not 28. Ezekiel 32. Lament over Pharaoh in Egypt. Let me see. Where is it? I'll start at Ezekiel 32:11. For thus saith the Lord Yahweh, the sword of the king of Babylon shall come upon thee. So this is talking about Egypt. Babylon The Lord sent Babylon, which was his sword at that time, which is a heathen nation against another heathen nation. Ezekiel 32:12, by the swords of the mighty will I cause thy multitude to fall, the terrible of the nations, all of them, and they shall spoil the pomp of Egypt, and all the multitude thereof shall be destroyed. Right, so you ain't gonna be able to succeed it. And Egypt thought they were tough, till the Lord sent that sword in there. Ezekiel 32:12 is a prophecy declaring God's judgment on Egypt, stating that its multitude, horde/army, will be destroyed by the swords of the terrible of the nations, the Babylonians. This verse predicts the total destruction of Egypt's pride, military power, and people by Nebuchadnezzar, symbolizing God's power over arrogant nations. So that's what he does. He'll raise up another nation that can defeat you. That's why they're saying they don't even want to have a ceasefire with you. They're chasing you around, hunting you. This is your own paper, man. This is the New York Times stating this. All right? It's pathetic. Your pomp has been brought down to the grave, Esau. Let's grab that. Isaiah 14. Isaiah 14 and 11. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. So the pomp is your noise, your might. You know, you can't even boast anymore about how strong you used to be and how amazing your military is, and it don't even make any sense if you hiding and you running away. Who's believing that? The verse vividly portrays his humiliation, stating that maggots and worms have replaced his luxurious bed and coverings, highlighting the finality of decay. And that's the worms and the maggots represent the deterioration of your nation, the fall of pride. The pomp or pride of the king who once shaken nations is brought low to the realm of the dead. Symbolism of decay. The mention of maggots and worms symbolizes the equalizer of death, where even the most powerful human becomes food for worms. And that's what the worms are spread under thee. Okay? Because you're already rotting away. You're already decaying. And the pleasure, the noise of thy vials or stringed instruments indicates that all the entertainment and luxury of his earthly reign have ceased. And you got a 250-year anniversary you're going to celebrate. You got that river that shit's filled with shit, and the weather's getting better, so you people gonna start smelling that shit. And as we come into the springtime,
Say that threat is not stopping the Pentagon from carrying out the war against Iran, which is in its fourth week. To date,
it's in its fourth week. Not really. Yes, it is, because the 28th it wasn't a leap year, so. If it started on February 28th plus 27, you're going into your fourth week. Not really there yet, but, I'm not holding them to the exact time and date, but all of his dates, he's making new dates. He's talking about April 6th. That's a whole nother date. He done pushed the 5-day date to April the 6th. So he just gave you, because Friday would have been, tomorrow is Friday. So he said the 5-day plan. Now he pushed the date out. So when someone keeps pushing the date out, it's not. That's why what's the point of even throwing out dates? You shouldn't even do that. Just do what you came to do, man. And then when it's done, it's done. Nah, 2 hours. You got 48. Now 5 days. Now it's April 6th. You know what? I'll probably, if we could bet that it's probably gonna go past April 6th. He's gonna give you another date then. As a matter of fact, I won't be surprised if they start giving you dates, since you can't uphold the date that you give.
He struck over 7,000 targets across Iran and its military infrastructure, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth declared last week. He then repeated what has become a common refrain at his news briefings: today will be the largest strike package yet, just like yesterday was. But the relocation...
All these large strike packets ain't stopping anybody. You doing large strike packets, but you in a hotel.
Of troops to makeshift, one official called them alternative sites, raises questions about the Trump administration's preparations for the war.
Right. Right.
There were close to 40,000 U.S. troops in the region when the war started, and Central Command has dispersed thousands of them, some to as far away as Europe, American military officials said. But many have remained in the Middle East, although not on their original bases, military officials said. The result, according to current and former military officials, is a war that is much harder to prosecute. Yes, we have the ability to set up expedient operation centers, but you're absolutely going to lose capability, said Master Sergeant Wes J. Bryant, a retired special operations targeting specialist in the U.S. Air Force. You can't just put all that equipment on the top of a hotel, for example. Some of it is unwieldy. A U.S.
You can't put all of this equipment on top of a hotel, Esau. But you're going to put we're going to set up shop here at the Hyatt. Turn it into a command center. Ezekiel 32:12. By the swords of the mighty will I cause thy multitude to fall, the terrible of the nations, all of them, and they shall spoil the pomp of Egypt, and all the multitude thereof shall be destroyed. So that's talking about Egypt, and the Lord sending the Babylonians to do it. I will destroy also all the beasts thereof from beside the great waters. Neither shall the foot of man trouble them any more, nor the hoofs of beasts trouble them. Then will I make their waters deep and cause their rivers to run like oil, saith the Lord God, when I shall make the land of Egypt desolate, and the country shall be destitute of that whereof it was full. When I shall smite all them that dwell therein, then shall they know that I am the Lord. And the modern day Egypt is America. This is the lamentation wherewith they shall lament her. The daughters of the nation shall lament her. Your daughters going into your your allies. They shall lament for her, even for Egypt and for her multitude, saith the Lord God. And that's your military. It came to pass also in the 12th year and the 15th day of the month that the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, wail for the multitude of Egypt, and cast them down, even her and the daughters of the famous nations, unto the nether parts of the earth, with them that go down into the pit. Whom dost thou pass in beauty? Go down and be thou laid with the uncircumcised. That's right, the other heathen. They shall fall in the midst of them that are slain by the sword. She is delivered to the sword. Draw her and all her multitudes. The strong among the mighty shall speak to him out of the midst of hell. With them that help him, they are gone down. They lie uncircumcised, slain by the sword. That's what's going to happen when you go into the land, when you go over to the Middle East. Asher is there and all her company. His graves are about him, all of them slain, fallen by the sword. So they even refer, because Asher would represent the Assyrians. So they were able, the Babylonians took them down with the Medes, like I just read in Google. Let's go to Asher, Assyrian. Asher or Assyria, a step, the people of Assyria. So he's just saying Asher got taken down, right? Ezekiel 32:23, whose graves are set in the sides of the pit, and her company is round about her grave, all of them slain, fallen by the sword, which caused terror in the land of the living. There is Elam and all her multitude round about her grave. Elam's going into the Persians. All of them slain, fallen by the sword, which are gone down uncircumcised into the nether parts of the earth, which caused their terror in the land of the living, yet have they borne their shame with them that go down to the pit. So he's just the other nations. He's just breaking down how they all got taken out in your necks. They have set her a bed in the midst of the slain with all her multitude. Her graves are round about him, all of them uncircumcised, slain by the sword. Though their terror was caused in the land of the living, yet have they borne their shame with them that go down to the pit. He is in the midst of them that be slain. So these other nations got slain and taken down. And your next, there is Meshach, Tubal, and all her multitude. Her graves are round about him. All of them uncircumcised, slain by the sword, though they caused their terror in the land of the living. So he's just going over these great nations that were before Esau. They all got taken out. Yea, thou shalt be broken in the midst of the uncircumcised, and shalt lie with them that are slain with the sword. There is Edom, her kings, and all her princes, which with their might are laid by them that were slain by the sword. They shall lie with the uncircumcised, and with them that go down to the pit. So he's just going over all of them, even Edom. There be the princes of the north, all of them, and all the Zidonians, which are gone down with the slain. With their terror they are ashamed of their might, and they lie uncircumcised with them that be slain by the sword, and bear their shame with them that go down to the pit. Pharaoh shall see them, and shall be comforted over all his multitude, even Pharaoh and all his army slain by the sword, saith the Lord Yahweh. So it's going to happen to Egypt too, and Pharaoh, and the modern day Pharaoh's Esau, according to Romans the 9th chapter. Let's grab that too. Actually, I want to keep this open. I'm going to have to grab it in another precept. So the Lord uses different nations to take down other nations. And Babylon took down a bunch of different nations. And then Babylon got taken out by the Medes. So the Lord to be using these nations to fulfill his will. And the same things happen in the Esau. Romans 9, verse 17. For the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. So the same way he raised up Esau, which is the modern day Pharaoh, so his name can be declared throughout all the earth. Now, he's just humiliating them now, but the real humiliation is when the Lord comes and destroys him in an instant. Ezekiel 32 and 32, for I have caused my terror in the land of the living, and he shall be laid in the midst of the uncircumcised with them that are slain with the sword, even Pharaoh and all his multitude, saith the Lord Yahweh. So there you go. There you go. Lament over Pharaoh in Egypt, man. This place is done.
Military officials said that troops are not working from the roofs of civilian hotels. Iran responded forcefully to the joint American and Israeli strikes, targeting not only U.S. bases, but also embassies and oil and gas infrastructure throughout the region. With its supreme leader and dozens of other leaders killed, the Iranian regime has retaliated by launching hundreds of drones and missiles into neighboring countries and largely shuttered the Strait of Hormuz, a vital shipping route, making sure the war would be felt by people across the globe. Many of the 13 military bases in the region used
making sure the world is felt by people across the globe. Making sure the war would be felt by people across the globe. That's their whole purpose. To make you feel it. Because if you don't feel it, you're going to continue to think it's okay. So now they're like, nah, fuck that. You're going to feel it, man. All you're going to feel it. And that's the Lord using them to do that. He going to make the world feel, you're going to feel this crisis, man. You're going to feel this war from home. When you can't start your stove, he going to make you feel that. You can't get any water, you're going to feel that. So you're going to get hit economically, you're going to get hit physically too. Because that's what it's looking like. Let me finish this up though.
By American troops are all but uninhabitable, with the ones in Kuwait, which is next door to Iran, suffering perhaps the most damage. 6 U.S. service members were killed in a strike on Port Shuaibah that destroyed an Army Tactical Operations Center. Iranian drones and missiles also targeted Ali al-Salem Air Base, damaging aircraft structures and injuring personnel, and Camp Buehring, damaging maintenance and fuel facilities. In Qatar, Iran struck Al Udeid Air Base, the regional air headquarters of U.S. Central Command, damaging an early warning radar system. In Bahrain, a one-way Iranian attack drone struck communications equipment at the headquarters of the U.S. Fifth Fleet. At Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, Iranian missiles and drones damaged communications equipment and several refueling tankers.
Damn.
An Iranian-backed militia in Iraq launched a drone swarm attack on an upscale hotel in Erbil early in the war.
An Iranian-backed what was that? An Iranian-backed militia in Iraq launched a drone swarm attack on an upscale hotel in Erbil early in the war. And you know what? So he's fighting in Iraq. This pro-Iranian militias over there that are fucking Esau up. They said they already implemented like 30 strikes on them in Iraq. So he's in Iraq. He's everywhere. This dude's everywhere, man. Let me highlight this. Couple more minutes.
Iranian officials have even accused the U.S. military of using civilians as human shields by putting American troops in hotels.
Wow.
We are forced to identify and target the Americans, the intelligence arm of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps said in a message to people in the region, according to Tasnim news agency. Therefore, it is better not to shelter them in hotels and to stay away from their locations. The message added that
I gotta get it. Proverbs 11 and 21. Proverbs 11 and 21. Though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. So you want to hold hands with them, they're not going to go unpunished. You want to shelter them in your hotels, they're chasing them down, man. Using other human shields. That's what these people used to always, that's what they used to say about these other groups. Oh, they be going into schools, and that's why we be bombing the schools, because they be in the schools. That's why they're giving a report. Yeah, you want to hide them in there? Your hotels are going to be telling you they're going to be targeted. That's some scary shit, man.
it is your Islamic duty to accurately report the hiding places of American terrorists and send the information to us on Telegram, a social media app. Despite a punishing air campaign, the Iranians still retain some capability. General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, acknowledged in the Pentagon news conference last week. General Kane said that layered defenses throughout the region were allowing the United States to protect troops and interests, but that the Pentagon was trying to bolster defenses in the region. Part of the problem for the Pentagon is that 2 decades of war in Iraq and Afghanistan, war zones where the United States quickly established air superiority, left the military with facilities and headquarters close to the current front lines. While Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan and the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, for example, were often targeted in suicide bombings and other attacks, neither the Taliban nor Iraqi militias possess the kind of ballistic missile capability that Iran has. During the war in Iraq in particular, the United States built up its bases there and in Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. Now, the war in Iran has made all of those bases vulnerable, to the point where service members can't really live or work there for extended periods, military officials said. The lack of better planning, some military officials said, also reflects a miscalculation on the part of the administration about how Iran would respond. The Trump administration did not reduce staffing at American embassies and other facilities in the region before the war started, or order departures for non-essential government employees and family members. Nor did the State Department warn Americans to steer clear of the region until after the war began. Two former U.S. officials briefed on military operations said there were no reinforced roofs on command centers at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, where one service member was killed and several others were wounded in an attack. Military officials say that American refueling tankers were rushed to the war with little time to orient or practice in the region before getting thrown into the round-the-clock operations. 2 American KC-135 tankers collided this month, leading to deaths of 6 service members. A Central Command spokesman said that incident is under investigation. Sergeant Bryant, the former Air Force special operator, pointed out that one area that the U.S. military excels at is what he called decentralized execution, or the ability to continue to do its job even from far afield. You could cut off the head of the snake and down to the last individual soldier. We're still going to be operating, he said. But he added, you still lose something.
Is that supposed to scare you, Ron? That's the weakest statement. You could cut the head off the snake and down to the last individual soldier. We're still going to be operating, he said. Oh, my God. That's a weak-ass response to what's being said in this article. That's some crazy shit. So, you're running away, okay? You establish all these bases. You're not setting them up for victory. It sounds like you're setting them up for slaughter. So that's what it sounds like. You people are just goats and sheep that just get slaughtered. I'm just going to send them out there to get slaughtered. I'm gonna pass policy. So you guys are just goats, sheep, rams for the slaughter. Hey man, that's what you signed up for. That 90,000 starting bonus don't sound so good anymore, does it? Crazy. Excuse me. It says two American KC-135 tankers collided this month, leading to deaths of 6 service members. I gotta grab this. Isaiah 19. Verse 14, the Lord have mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. So you got this, Lord put a spirit on Esau to be a reprobate. He's colliding into himself. He got him in, he's not even warning them until after the war began. No, you should warn them before to leave. You don't warn them after the war begins and then tell them everyone to leave. That's a perverse spirit, man. And it's causing him to err in every work thereof. He's underestimating his enemy, like grossly underestimating them. You know, he's talking about, I'm gonna take over Carg Island. He's saying it before. He got all these troops. I don't know where he's sending them. I heard there was like some type of military paratroopers or something shit like that. I wonder where they went. Where did the U.S. paratroopers go? As of March 20th, the U.S. is deploying roughly 1,000 to 3,000 paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division to the Middle East, based out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. This rapid response unit is moving to the region amid heightened tensions with Iran, with potential tasks including securing critical locations. I was just watching some more Iranian propaganda, and they were saying the reason why Hamas and Hezbollah are still there, even though the country's still destroyed, because they were trained in Iran. He's like, they trained them to work in the worst conditions. And he's saying, y'all ain't trained like that. Now, is that propaganda or is that facts? You still trying to do shit you did in Iraq, like that newspaper said. You know, they didn't have drones and ICBM missiles. So that, you know, you think you can just set up base right next to them. They had suicide bombers, but they got drones now. They don't need suicide bombers. But they're still suicidal. They'll go kill themselves to defend their country, like just like anybody would if a foreign invader came in there. You can't invade in this modern day warfare. Esau think where you think you're at? Isaiah 9:5, for every battle of the warriors with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. Yeah, every battle of the warrior was confused noise and garments rolled in blood. This is not back in the day the way you used to fight. Isaiah 9:5 in the NLT, the boots of the warrior and the uniforms bloodstained by war will all be burned. They will be fuel for the fire. That's what it is. You're going to be the fuel for the fire. But the battlefield has changed, and you're not recognizing that. That's going to cost a lot of people, but their lives. And there's some more reports, you know, from what I'm seeing. Last night, Russia's just sent 1,000 drones that hit Ukraine. Where was Ukrainians' defense? You calling them to come to the Middle East and help with the drone attacks? They just got hit with 1,000 drones. And then today's news, Russia's saying, I'm gonna send these drones after he hit you with 1,000 of them. I'm gonna send those drones to Iran. So that means you gonna get hit with those drones. People don't have no clue what's going on. Iran issues ultimatum to Bahrain, UAE hotels hosting U.S. troops. I just went over it, but I want to see what this article says, because this is the only, other than this New York. I'm glad they posted this. Nobody's reporting on this. The New York Times. You know what? The New York Times might just be that paper, man. I might have to sign up for them, because this is. That's pretty big that they even said something about that. Tehran, March 27th. See, that's tomorrow's news. Iran has issued an ultimatum to hotel owners in Bahrain and the UAE, warning that hosting U.S. military personnel can make their properties legitimate military targets. And the semi-official Fars news agency reported. Fars reported that U.S. forces have taken refuge in regional hotels following Iranian missile strikes in joint operations with allied militant groups that targeted American military infrastructure across the Middle East. The warning covers any facility hosting foreign military personnel and takes effect immediately if such activity continues, one news agency reported. The report also claimed U.S. personnel have established a presence at civilian sites across the region, including a logistic base near Beirut's old airport and advisory operations at Damascus Republic Palace, the Four Seasons, and Sheraton hotels. U.S. Marines were reportedly moved this week to Djibouti International Airport via Istanbul and Sofia. So the Marines are supposed to be the spearhead to get up in the country. Now you sound like you on vacation. Early on Thursday, Iran's Foreign Minister Saeed Abbas Araghchi warned hotels in Gulf Arab countries against accepting U.S. military personnel, accusing the soldiers of fleeing their bases and using civilian sites as cover. And that's what you heard from the heathen. The heathen was always accused of mingling amongst the people and things like that. From the outset of this war, U.S. soldiers fled military bases in the GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council, to hide in hotels and offices. They used GCC citizens as human shields, Araghchi wrote on the social media platform X. He compared the situation to hotels in the U.S., which he claimed deny bookings to officers who may endanger customers, and urged Gulf hotels to adopt the same practice. On February 28th, Israel and U.S. launched joint attacks on Tehran and other Iranian cities, killing Iran's then Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, senior military commanders, and civilians. Iran retaliated with missile and drone strikes against Israel and U.S. bases and tightened control of the Strait of Hormuz, blocking vessels affiliated with Israel and United States. So they're saying they got tighter. I wonder what Khamenei would be saying if he was alive today. This is crazy. Russia delivering drones to Iran in bid to bolster its capabilities. They already look like they don't need to be any bolstering. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi on the left and Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov walked together after their meeting to give a joint press conference at the Foreign Ministry headquarters in Tehran, Iran, on February 25th, 2025. Yeah, that's an old picture, but this is today's news. But the reason why I'm bringing it out because it shows you Ezekiel 38. Okay, how Russia is being a guard unto these nations. Ezekiel 38. Verse 1, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Okay, so Meshach and Tubal, when you look at Meshach, I believe Meshach goes into Moscow, and Tubal, there's a place called Tubal in Russia, and prophesy against them. So in Gog, the land of Magog, Gog is the prince of Rosh. So it makes sense. And say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. So I'm against the prince of Rosh. Who's the prince of Rosh right now? Vladimir Putin. Now, he could actually be the vessel that this is prophesied to be, to bring forth the destruction of, he got all the characteristics of being it. So we might be witnessing the Prince of Rosh now, in real time, in the land of Magog, which is Gog's land, which is Russia. And it even tells you that that's what it's talking about when you go into the Hebrew. That's why anyone who's not scholarly, you ain't supposed to listen to them. They're not going into the concordance and get the hell out of here. They don't know nothing. They're reprobate silver. The prophetic prince of Rosh. Okay, Meshach and Tubal and Magog. The prophetic prince of Rosh. Okay, he's here now. He's the one that's going to send 1,000 drones. He just sent in his ambassador Lavrov to Iran. And I will turn thee back and put hooks in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with swords, all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. So these swords, these drones, okay, he's going to turn thee back, okay, back into the USSR, okay, back into that Cold War spirit, making it hot and put hooks into thy jaws. So the Lord's controlling these different leaders or in this case, the Russian president to come up out of that, come up out of Russia. He put hooks into his jaws, making him fight again. That war was cold for a while, but now it's heating up. Okay, especially when he just sent 100. He's sent 1,000 drones hitting Ukraine. He's sending drones. He wants to send drones to Iran. He's giving logistical, military information to Iran. So Iran got capability. Ezekiel 38:5. Persia, which is Iran. Ethiopia and Libya. Ethiopia is Eastern Africa. Libya is Northern Africa. With them, all of them with shield and helmet. So all of them with shield and helmet, they're going to be, with some form of capability. Gomer, which is Turkey, and all his bands, the house of Togomar of the north quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. Hold on, what's going on? What's going on here? Sometimes my computer be messing up, be making noise. Excuse me. So Gomer, which is Turkey, and all his bands, the house of Togomar of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. If you look at the map, let's just, I don't know, Russia. Let's go to maps. Well, I gotta look at an older map, as a matter of fact, but this is good. When you look up what Togomar and what's Togomar? Togomar and Gomer is in modern day Turkey, in this area over here, with Georgia and Armenia and Azerbaijan. Well, probably a little more over here. So that's what he's talking about. That's the land of these allies in this region here. Georgia doesn't have any. I was looking up these countries, but this used to be all Russia. Okay, it used to be called Georgia, Russia. Russia extends all the way over and into where Turkey is. These two countries or three countries, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia, separate Turkey from Russia. Okay, but you look at Egypt, Libya, Northern Africa, there's Ethiopia, East Africa. Okay, they're gonna be with them. As a matter of fact, I think Turkey and Ethiopia just did some, you hear news about Turkey doing some plans with Ethiopia. They had some, that was a couple weeks ago, but they're still talking. If you're doing economic, you're doing military too. For a while, Iran didn't even say that they were really allies with Russia. But of course they are. And look at that. Look how close they are. Iran's connected to Russia through Azerbaijan. So it's not going to be hard for them to get what they don't need to use the Gulf of Hormuz. I mean, the Strait of Hormuz and all of that, man. They can just go right here. Okay. He don't even need to go through Ukraine. Man, they directly can. Iran can get supported right through Turkey. Come on, man. People are out of your damn mind. Ezekiel 38 and verse 6 again. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togomar of the north quarters and all his bands and many people with thee. Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So that's what Russia's doing. I'm gonna hit them up. I'm gonna give them 1,000 drones. That's the Lord's word being fulfilled that's how he's guarding them. All right, you running out of that? All right, I got you here. Hold that. You don't want me to help you? Nope. All right, here's some more drones. Here's some information. You know what? If you hit these sites, they ain't gonna have nowhere to go. And he hit all those sites. Now they in hotels. Ezekiel 38 and 8. After many days thou shalt be visited, and in the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword. Now the land that was brought back from the sword is talking about Israel. Because in 70 AD, that's when the nation of Israel, well, it's really 70 AD going into, the Jewish-Roman wars. That's when we haven't been in that land. We were the ones fighting those damn Romans, man. That must have been a fun time, honestly, when I think about battling with Esau with sword. That must have been great. And you know what? We lost. But still, it wasn't, at least you dying for your laws, statutes, and commandments is a different thing, man. It's better than being on a slave ship, jumping in the water and having sharks eat you. I'd rather be putting swords in Esau's neck and his back, and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel. And is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel. Okay. Is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. Now this precept is double. It's like a double entendre, because it's also talking about the small hat, because they came back in here too. We never came back into that land. After we went into the inner parts of Africa, then the transatlantic slave trade, but the northern kingdom was already in Israel, so now we're oppressed together. We over here is Jeremiah 50 and 33. And is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. So that's them. That's them coming back into the land. We got kicked out, they moved in. Okay, that's pretty much what that's saying. Let me just grab Luke 21 and 24. Luke 21, verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So that's the time of the Gentiles being fulfilled. That's what this is talking about. Okay, Ezekiel 38:9. Thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, thou and all thy bands and many people with thee. So now he's saying he's going to cover the land. They're going to go into Israel. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. This is talking about the prince of Rosh, Gog, Vladimir Putin. And thou shalt say, I will go up. That's what it looks like. Now, unless he die and somebody else get raised up, that's what happens. But as of right now, that's exactly who it looks like is going to be the one to fulfill this prophecy in Ezekiel 38. And thou shalt say, I will go up into the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. Now, the land of unwalled villages is America, but it also applies to Israel, because they think that they're safe. Let's look this up, as a matter of fact. Ezekiel 38 and 11. Actually, I don't want to look it up here. Let's look this up in I didn't even finish this precept, but it's whatever. Ezekiel 38 and 11. We're going to the land of unwalled villages. Unwalled villages, places with no defenses, open, exposed. Now, you would think America's not open, exposed. They supposedly want to create some form of a defense. They got a wall, right? They got a fence, but it's because look at how the people got over here. At a point, it was easy to get over the border, even though they put these defenses in place. But it's really going into their defenses against these missiles, because when you read Joel, the 2nd chapter, it describes the missiles as people. So these people, just like immigrants and all that, get into these countries. That's these missiles are gonna bypass their defenses and hit their targets, just like Israel. They didn't really fully unleash what they can do to Israel because they stopped. But now they kicking shit back off, thinking, I don't know what the hell Israel's thinking after what they did last year, but clearly they think they can take them down. But they really drawing on Jeremiah 49:20, drawing America into that war, fulfilling prophecy in Jeremiah 49:20. In ancient times, cities had walls for protection. This means the land is unguarded and vulnerable, right? Because the Lord is directing these missiles to hit their targets. There's nothing you can do when it comes to the Lord. You can have a shield. You can have all of that. You can have your shield up to date. As a matter of fact, let me grab this in 1 Kings 22. 1 Kings 22. And let me go straight to the point. The defeat and death of Ahab. So the king of Israel, 1 Kings 22 and 29. So the king of Israel, Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, went up to Ramoth Gilead, and the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, I will disguise myself and enter into the battle, but put thou on thy robes. And the king of Israel disguised himself and went into the battle. So the Lord wanted to put Ahab to death. But the king of Syria commanded his 32 captains that had rule over his chariots, saying, fight neither with small nor great, save only with the king of Israel. So they wanted to save the king of Israel, which was Ahab. They didn't want him to fight a huge battle. They just wanted to get him. And it came to pass, 1 Kings 22 and verse 32, when the captains of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, that they said, surely it is the king of Israel. Now this is Jehoshaphat, not Ahab. So this is the king of Judah. But the Syrians thought that they said, surely it is the king of Israel, which is Ahab, because he was disguised. And they turned aside to fight against him, and Jehoshaphat cried out. And it came to pass, when the captains of the chariots perceived that it was not the king of Israel, that they turned back from pursuing him, because then they realized that it was somebody else, Jehoshaphat. 1 Kings 22 and 34, this is the point. And a certain man drew a bow at a venture, and smote the king of Israel between the joints of the harness. Wherefore he said unto the driver of his chariot, turn thine hand and carry me out of the host, for I am wounded. So there you go. So a certain man, just a random man, drew a bow in a battle, and the bow went up in the air, and it hit Ahab. It hit him. That's super spiritual. They just hit him. The target that the Lord wanted to get in the first place. The man who probably even drew the bow didn't even know who that arrow was going to hit. The Lord divinely, they don't tell you all of this, but when you read the rest of the chapter, you understand the Lord wanted to put him to death, and it was all spiritual, sending him into that battle to get put to death in this way. And I'm bringing that out because he thought he could disguise himself. He had armor on, and they said it hit him between the joints of the harness. So wherever he had armor on, but wherever he probably hit him in the side, right where the two metal plates, when you tie your metal together, it went through there. So out of all places where it could have hit you, that's where the Lord sent the arrow. And that's what's going to happen to Esau, is what I'm trying to say here. Ezekiel 38. In verse 11, and thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. And, it sounds like it's a military invasion, but it's really talking about those missiles. Okay? Because like it says in Isaiah 9 and 5, every battle of the warriors with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. But this shall be with, I can't even quote it. This shall be with fire or something like that. This shall be with fuel of fire. I'm misquoting it. I'm just going to grab it real quick. Isaiah 9:5, for every battle of the warriors with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with the burning and fuel of fire. So it's not going to be a military invasion and y'all shoot it out or you stab it out, whatever. It's going to be with missiles. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, and all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. And they dwell in safety. They're going to war, so they ain't really safe. But it's really talking about America because they think they're so far away from the battle. You know, they think that, you know, they're going to war with Iran thinking they can't hit us. You know, so you feeling safe. You know, and even Israel think, oh, all right, we're good, you know, we're going to be all right. All the THAAD systems are coming to us. They got a false sense of security. Ezekiel 30:12, to take a spoil and to take a prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited. See, they're now inhabited with the heathen, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, that dwell in the midst of the land. Sheba and Dedan. Sheba is modern day Yemen, and Dedan is eastern Saudi Arabia, when you look it up. And the merchants of Tarshish, which would be Spain, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, art thou come to take a spoil? As thou gathered thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil? And you know, you see that these nations are hesitant. You know, it's really talking about like economic, like an economic situation. They're more concerned about, like, what you hear in the news now is the Gulf, and you're hearing about energy crisis and things like that. People are worried about that. So I think that this is, you know, what we're starting to see. Ezekiel 30:14, therefore, son of man, prophesy and say unto Gog, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, in that day when my people of Israel dwelleth safely, shall thou not know it? So what's different about Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, is it jumps, okay? And right now it's talking about my people Israel. Okay, so this is talking about you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Now Gog, which would fall under the Medes. When you look at Gog, he falls under he's Madai. Let's look at that. Let's look at that real quick. Which is a son of Japheth. Where does this? Magog. I don't know where I get Gog at. Let me see. Gog. I don't know how Gog. What am I talking about? No, Meshach. Excuse me. I think Meshach goes back to Madai. Let me look at Meshach. Meshach, drawing out, son of Japheth, grandson of Noah, and progenitor of peoples of the north of Israel. Descendants of Meshach are often mentioned in connection with Tubal, Magog, and other northern nations, including the Marshi, a people on the borders of Colchis in Armenia. Because that's Shem's land that Putin is in. Russia, with Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Shem went into the, you know, Russia and all of that. And then, I mean, not Shem. Japheth went in where Russia was, and Shem went into where Saudi Arabia and, you know, that Middle East pretty much, and Ham went into Africa. But who's in those lands today? The so-called Russians. So he's stirring up the spirit of the Medes, is what I'm trying to bring out here. Ezekiel 38. So the Medes and the Persians the Medes took down Babylon, and we were under the land of, we were under captivity to the Medes and the Persians right after that. Ezekiel 38:15, and thou shalt come from thy place out of the north parts, thou and many people with thee, all of them riding upon horses, a great company and a mighty army. And thou shalt come up against my people of Israel as a cloud to cover the land. It shall be in the latter days, and I will bring thee against my land, that the heathen may know me, when I shall be sanctified in thee, O Gog, before their eyes. So that's when we went into captivity underneath them. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, art thou he of whom I have spoken in old time by my servants the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years that I will bring thee against them? So therefore it jumps back up. So 14, 15, and 16 is talking about a past time, and then it jumps to 17, where he's pretty much going up with the rest of the precepts from Ezekiel 38, 1 through 13. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, art thou he whom I have spoken in old time by my servants the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years that I would bring thee against them? And the reason why you know that is because precept must be upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little. Isaiah 28, Ezekiel 38, verse 18, and it shall come to pass at the same time when Gog shall come up against the land of Israel, saith the Lord God, that my fury shall come up in my face. So now this is talking about the land of Israel. He's not talking about his people anymore. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken, surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel. So that's talking about thermonuclear destruction, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the field and all the creeping things that creep upon the earth and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, the mountains of the governments, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground, matching up with Matthew 24, like what Yahushua said. And he said, and every wall shall fall to the ground. Matthew 24:1, and Yahushua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Yahushua said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So, at first glance, you think he's talking about 70 AD, but he actually prophesying about Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, Ezekiel 38 in verse, and that's what he's saying right here. Ezekiel 30 and 20, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. So this is talking about Russia and Israel. So our Lord prophesied about it too. Ezekiel 30 and 21, and I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith the Lord Yahweh, every man's sword shall be against his brother. So even against Gog. And I will plead against him with the pestilence and with blood, and I will rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many people that are with him in overflowing rain and great hailstones, fire and brimstone. So he's going to kill him over there. Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. So we're seeing all of this play out in real time is what I'm bringing out. Them being a guard unto Persia, that's, delivering drones to Iran, that's only going to escalate. Duck postpones U.S. strikes on Iranian power grid to April 6 amid talks. So he just keeps pushing that date later and later, and we're starting to see that, man, he can't really fulfill what he's saying. U.S. President Donald Duck has pushed back a self-imposed deadline for attacks on Iran's power grid to April 6, citing progress in negotiations to end the ongoing war in the country. Thursday's announcement comes as the president continues to pressure Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a vital waterway for oil traffic. Yeah, he's continuing to pressure them, but your men are in hotels right now. U.S. considers sending additional 10,000 ground troops to Middle East amid Iran talks. So he's sending more people over there because the people over there probably, as you're reading this, they probably getting blown to pieces. You might read tomorrow morning that all those hotels got destroyed because we're late. As a matter of fact, when I read this article, it tells you March. What's the date on this? Someone give tomorrow's date. That ain't that one. Is this the one? Nope. Maybe it's this. When is this? March 27th. U.S. considers sending an additional 10,000 ground troops. I'm going to read a little bit of this. U.S. is considering sending 10,000 additional ground troops to the Middle East amid negotiations with Iran. The Wall Street Journal reported on Thursday night, citing Department of Defense officials familiar with the matter. So he's just sending more people. And it's going to continue to escalate because it's not modern warfare. It's not like back in Iraq, you're gonna be there for 20 years. It's not going to be like that. You on day 27, day 28, and you don't even have any military bases in the Middle East. You actually you hiding under civilians, just like those T groups that used to attack in back then. That's what you were accusing ISIS was doing. You were accusing a bunch of different. That's what they did. Why are you doing that? And this is another article I read. Duck's signature to appear on U.S. dollars and first for sitting president. He want to put his name on the U.S. dollar. On U.S. dollars. And you know what? When you look at the U.S. dollar, there's a lot of Egyptology on there. Egypt, and he wants to put his name on that. Duck is set to become the first sitting president to have his signature on U.S. banknotes, the Treasury Department has announced. Is a banknote a Federal Reserve note? Let me ask. Because I'm stupid. I don't know. Yep, that's what's popping up. Same as Federal Reserve note. Federal Reserve notes make up. That's not what I'm asking. Let's ask AI mode. U.S. banknotes, same as Federal Reserve note. For all practical purposes, Federal Reserve notes are the same as what most people mean by U.S. banknotes today. They are the only type of paper currency currently produced and issued in the U.S. So that's the point. Duck's signature will appear alongside Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, an unprecedented move that the department said was being made to mark America's 250th anniversary. There is no more powerful way to recognize the historic achievements of our great country and President Donald Duck than U.S. dollar bills bearing his name. And that's significant. That's on a dollar bill, because a dollar bill got the pyramid. There's a lot of symbology behind that dollar. It's just showing you. It says Norris Chloris. I forgot how to say it. What does it say on the bottom of the pyramid of the U.S. dollar in Latin? Novus Ordo Seclorum, located on the banner below the base. It translates to a new order of the ages, or New World Order. That's right. So he wants to sign it. That's what's significant about the dollar bill. But Job, chapter 5, and verse number 12, he disappointed the devices of the crafty so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. So the enterprise is going into their NWO. You can sign any piece of paper you want. That don't mean it's official. It don't mean it's... He likes to party before it even happens. He got the ballroom ready to go. He got everything, but he about to get taken down by the Lord. Job 5, verse 13, he taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the froward is carried headlong. This precept always makes me think about Jazzy Jeff. Headlong means to, when Uncle Phil used to throw him out he used to grab him by his pants and throw him out. That's what the Lord's going to do with him when he gets kicked out of his kingdom. That's where headlong means. Let's look this up. It says, to hasten, to be hurried, be anxious, to make haste, to hasten, prepare quickly, do quickly, bring quickly. So he got to hurry up. He's rushing him. He don't got a lot of time. So he's moving fast. That's why everything seems sloppy that he's doing. It's like you can see what he's doing in real time. No, I'm done with that. It says, it is the latest move by the administration to associate Duck's name with a range of government programs of public buildings. The first $100 bills with the signatures of Duck and Besant will be printed in June, with others to follow. Notes current. He might even put his face on some of these dollars. He might get rid of Abraham and say he used to, put his face on some $500 bill or $1,000 bill. Notes currently being printed bear the signature of former President Joe Biden's Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, and Treasury Lynn Malerba. It has been tradition since 1861 for the U.S. Treasurer's signature to appear on banknotes, a tradition which will end under the Duck administration's plans. You want to sign the money. Ahead of the 250th anniversary, Besant in printing currency bearing Duck's name would be a powerful way to recognize the historic achievements of our great country and the president. So what achievements are you talking about, man? The inflation, the gas prices, the food costs, the war you losing in Iran, the war you said you fixed, these other 8 wars that are kicking back off. I don't know what's there to really boast about. I mean, I just don't know. I'm trying to find something that Esau can boast about. You got the Potomac River, got shit water in it. Is that what you talk? I don't know what are you talking about? Protests? Is that the historic achievement? I don't know. Or immigration and I don't know. Someone let me know. And current U.S. Treasurer Brandon Beach vowed the country's currency will continue to stand as a symbol of prosperity, strength, and the unshakable spirit of the American people. The unshakable spirit, my ass. Isaiah 19. Isaiah 19, verse 15 again. Isaiah 19 and 14 again. The Lord have mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. So, no, Isaiah 19 and 3. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof. So that American spirit is going to fail. And I will destroy the counsel thereof. And they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards. So you're going to be looking for all this destruction that's going to come upon Babylon. You're going to be praying to these idols trying to seek help, and they ain't going to help you. You're going to be asking the duck for help, and he ain't going to be able to help you, because this is the will of the Lord. 2026 is the 250th anniversary of the formal declaration when 13 states declared their independence from Britain. Yeah, but 250 years, is 250 years the average of how long a kingdom lasts? The 250-year lifespan is a popular yet contested statistic often cited regarding the longevity of major empires, frequently mentioned in relation to the U.S. approaching its 250th anniversary in 2026, while some studies suggest a roughly 250 to 300 year cycle for major empires. Many historians argue that empires often last much longer or vary too much for a strict average. Key context on the 250-year average. The source, the figure, is often attributed to the 20th century British military historian John Glubb, who suggested a general informal average of 250 years for major empires such as the Roman Republic rather than a hard historical rule. Contradicting data, many empires lasted far longer. Examples include the Ottoman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, and the Roman Empire. Variability, the lifespan of civilizations and kingdoms varies significantly based on factors like internal turmoil, economic stability, and environmental issues, rather than a fixed lifespan. Alternative studies, other analysts suggest a higher average, with some data placing the average lifespans on ancient civilizations closer to roughly 336 to 340 years. In summary, the 250-year statistic is less of a strict historical rule and more of a thematic benchmark regarding the historical pattern of rise, peak, and decline of major powers. And there's 3 parts of a kingdom. Is Babylon rising? Is it at its peak, or is it on its decline? It's on its decline. That's the right answer. Says the Democratic Party governor of California, longtime duck critic Gavin Newsom, responded to the announcement with an attack on the president's economic record. Now Americans will know exactly who to blame as they're paying more for groceries, gas, rent, and healthcare, he posted on social media, right? Duck faced a public backlash. And you know what? The money's probably ain't gonna worth shit if he's putting his name on it. So that's showing you he's trying to, that shit's done. Duck faced a public backlash after the White House said the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. would be renamed the Duck Kennedy Center. Several artists canceled performances after the rebrand, and it has since closed for a 2-year renovation scheduled to begin in July. Oh, that's funny. During his first term in office, President Duck's name appeared on paper support requests sent to millions of Americans during the COVID-19 pandemic. Y'all better put some respect on Duck. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be in fulfilling prophecy. So the Lord set him up. The Lord's dealing with the duck. So let him fulfill prophecy. Let me grab this in Proverbs 21:1. He ain't doing nothing that the Lord ain't allowing him to do. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, and as the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. That's not in. That's the Lord gave him that perverse spirit to be a reprobate in these last days. Okay. But I'm ending here. Lord's will, this was edifying. Shalom.